Hi, welcome to the show tonight. K9 for Veterans. This is your host tonight, me, Jill Jans, and my darling husband, John, is my guest. We are going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to discuss some of the current events that are going on nationally and then somewhat locally, statewide, and we're going to close out the show with some information about PTSD around the holidays. So even though it's after the holidays, hopefully it can still hold some semblance of important information for those who need it. And I will start out with saying welcome to you, John, and thank you for coming and being a part of this.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate being on once again.
Well then, there we go. Let's start with talking about what's going on in Baghdad. That's something that is kind of really all over the news that we've seen. Why don't you give us a recap, Johnny?
So, Baghdad and really all around Iraq has had protests going on for, it seems like months. But they've been protesting the Iran militias mainly and their influence in the country. So the Iraqi protesters have been protesting Iran.
Okay.
And now, as of last week, they had the Iranian militia had a rocket attack at one of our bases in Iraq, which killed a U.S. contractor and severely injured a few American military personnel. In response to that, we bombed, I think it was 5 sites, five of the Iranian militia's sites, killing a couple of dozen and injuring quite a few more. Days after that, or the next day, the protests that had been going on shift swiftly, and the Iranian military, along with the Iraqi people, tried storming the American embassy in Baghdad, which is of importance
for obvious reasons.
Right.
We all, I think, if you're tuning in, you probably know what an embassy is and what the significance of it is. I'm going to start off with, I saw on the news, and then I contacted John because I heard 50 Marines were going, and he informed me that I was incorrect, and it was...
So early in the day, as things were starting to progress,
escalate.
And we could see that they were actually uniformed. At least half of the individuals that were storming our embassy were uniformed Iranian militia. The SecDef Secretary of Defense sent 100 Marines to reinforce the compound, and had Apaches flying overhead, dropping flares as a show of force, and outside the gates,
I think it's significant what you had mentioned to me earlier, which was that they should have never gotten that far.
No, they shouldn't have. So our embassy is in the middle of the Green Zone. The Green Zone is supposed to be the most secure area in Iraq. Just hands down, no violence. And in order for the militia to have gotten all the way to our embassy, they had to clear multiple Iraqi checkpoints, Iraqi army, Iraqi police. We had, we used to have U.S. checkpoints. I think we handed all of that over to the Iraqis.
So essentially the Iraqis were supposed to be standing guard and keeping it just as safe or equally as safe as we would have done. And because they did not do that, the Iranian militia was able to get in and
they were able to push through without a problem.
Now, what is going on currently?
Currently at the embassy?
Yes, what's going on currently?
Currently we've got...
I thought that was they...
What do you think is going on currently?
I thought it was that they've withdrawn now.
Who had withdrawn? The protesters?
Yeah.
Yes, the protesters had withdrawn.
So the 100 Marines got there, and they're just like,
you know what? I'm not going to play today.
Probably not a good idea.
And we've also said that we had no problem going on the offensive, which means that if we see in the future that the Iranian military, the Iranian militias are going to try and cause an uprising again, we will go after their bases again. And
well, that is some interesting information. All right. So let's move on to our next topic, which would be the fact that we're not talking nationally or globally anymore, but let's talk about Texas and the shooting that happened in Texas on Sunday when a former Army National Guardsman was able to stop a possible mass casualty situation and take down a shooter in a church, which was fantastic.
So this church was recently rebuilt along one of Texas highways. So they get a lot of transients. They get a lot of individuals coming in requesting food and monetary assistance. And the church's stance is that they will help feed anyone. However, they don't hand out money.
I think is a fair.
Absolutely fair. This individual what do we have his name?
No, and we're not supposed to like repeat
right.
like shooter.
So the shooter came in to the church a few times prior to the attack, and had requested money, but requested food and monetary assistance. But when they told him he wasn't
no to the monetary,
right, no to the monetary assistance, he got kind of irate. So he came back on Sunday and
during communion, from what I understand,
they had the church was very wise, and part of their new strategy was to set up a security team.
Well, and the thing is Texas passed a law, I don't know if it was a year ago, but it was after the last church shooting. They passed a law that you're allowed to have armed security guards in a church, and you're also allowed, I think, to open carry if the church is okay with it, which
the church allows
was.
it.
Yeah.
It turns out they were wise to this guy from the start. He had entered the church from a different point than he normally would. He walked across the entire parking lot and kind of followed a family in there. He was wearing a trench coat.
Trench coats.
He was acting a little suspicious from their previous encounters, but had gone in and asked one of the volunteers where the bathroom was. And when he came out of the bathroom, they had two of their security staff posted on him. They had the security cameras watching him, and it was pretty clear something was going to happen. They weren't sure what. One of the security personnel, I believe it was the individual that took the shot that took him down, said he had positive ID of his right hand, but he was nervous because he couldn't see his left hand. So this guy was able to squeeze off.
He was able to kill. He killed two people.
He pulled a shotgun out of his trench coat,
right?
And at point blank range, squeezed off 2 rounds.
One of them was in front of the guy's grandson, which I think was terrible. But
and that's when this security guard took him down.
Again, we have another military person saving the day. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And good on keeping watch.
Stay vigilant.
Right.
No matter where you are, there are no safe spaces anymore.
And your training always comes in handy. Next one is we have in Illinois, since it is after the first of the year, legalized cannabis. Woohoo! For those who are partaking in the cannabis whatnot. So there's been lines around a bunch of stores and all of that. But pertaining to our show, what do we, and by what do we, I mean, what do you think? Or how do you think it's going to affect veterans in the state moving forward?
So I think it's going to have a positive effect on veterans. Up until now, many veterans have been leery of it because it wasn't it wasn't legal, and there's so many rules and rumors about what may or may not affect your VA rating.
And right now, the unofficial stance of the VA is like a hands-off, but they're condoning it.
I'm not going to say that the doctors encourage it, but can't prescribe it. But from my experience, doctors encourage it, but
they understand the
don't prescribe
benefits of it, and I want to believe that they are. Actually, I'm positive that they are in the future going to be looking into what the actual benefits for veterans with PTSD specifically, if not veterans in general that are injured, that are having a VA doctor look at them, what that would be. And I mean, there's just so much.
There's a lot of research that shows
needs to be done, and hopefully now.
Well, they've already concluded it can help on a wide range of ailments, and it can be very helpful and effective.
And then that's one less thing that a vet would be put in jail for. That's one less. I mean, there's lots of things that hopefully it'll be able to help, and hopefully in the future there's going to be more information about all of this kind of stuff, and we will get back to you on it when we have it. And there is the next topic, which is kind of a recap of the 2019 things that are in legislation that are moving forward, like the end of the they're ending the use of toxic burn pits, and they want to look into the effects that it has on veterans and service members. And that's kind of what I'm curious about too. Like
so we had the burn pits initially in Iraq because that's a way of disposing of our
waste.
Our waste, and you got to think it's more than just human waste, like our excrements, which yes, that got burned too, but all of our military gear, batteries, and
anything that was garbage.
Right, anything that was garbage,
it went into the burn pit to be burned.
Had to go to the burn pits. Now, for areas where you're further ahead of friendly, you're in a smaller compound, like a FOB out in the middle of nowhere.
That's a forward operating base.
A forward operating base out in the middle of nowhere. Are you going to truck in and out all the garbage, and then from where's? I'm just curious.
These are good questions.
I'm curious on the logistics of it.
That's kind of the things that I'm going over right now in the 2019 recap from the legislative stuff is very much things that reading them I was wondering to myself, this is great that you guys want to legislatively change all of this and say that you're going to do it, but
it seems like another way of politicians getting involved in things that
it seems to me that they're putting into words things that we all know, and they don't have any.
There's no real way to.
There's not any action being put in those words. Like it's just okay. We're going to end it. Well, I suppose ending is an action technically, but how were you going to end it? So then the next thing is they're repealing the widow's tax.
That's great.
Which is fantastic. The logistics that went into the explanation of that, I wasn't 100% on because
we did a couple of shows on it prior.
We've talked about it on our shows before about how it affects the people who lose
surviving spouses
and stuff like that. And it was saying that with the repeal of the widow's tax, it would be helping the survivor benefits somehow, and it didn't really explain it as well as I would have liked, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on it until I know a little bit more about it, but that's one of the things. The next one was they want to not overturn the Ferris Doctrine.
They want to amend it, but not completely repeal it.
Yes, they want to not overturn it in the sense of they do not want to give carte blanche on people being able to take legal action with military that was not.
So the Ferris Doctrine, to recap, is essentially right now where you're not allowed to sue the military for anything or sue an individual in the military. You can't. You can't sue a doctor right now who practiced gross negligence, where in the civilian world that would be a no-brainer to sue them for damages. Right now, because he was a member of the military and you were a member of the military at the time, you cannot sue that individual. That's what they're looking to amend, is a way to make that individual liable for his actions without.
So the individual people and the individuals.
Right. So the individual that incurred the damage could get compensation or could sue the individual responsible.
You would be taking out also a person who's in the medical field that probably shouldn't be there if they're doing that gross of a negligence to people, but you're not going to then be holding the whole military as At
the same time, you wouldn't be able to sue the military for burn pit exposure. say.
Or the Agent Orange.
Or Agent Orange, or something along those lines.
Any of the big stuff would still be covered, but the little stuff that goes to the individuals. Oh, we have a caller.
Oh, we have a caller.
Okay, what do I hit for that?
I want to make my comment about the medical marijuana.
Yes.
Everybody knows cigarettes is bad, but the state and county and city make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about in terms of recreation. Marijuana is about making money. And I'm going to make a prediction.
Yes.
In 10 years from now, I would not be surprised if the state going to legalize heroin. It's all about money. And there's people that can make money off people's misery. And they don't talk about it too much. There is a cure for drug addiction to stop the craving, but guess what? It costs a lot of money, but yet it's a cure. People making money in terms of drug counseling and doctors and all that. It's about money.
Okay.
It's not about the right thing to do. It's, once again, it's about making money.
It is about money. However, if you look into the history of marijuana and how it became illegal in the first place, you'll see that it should never have been illegal. It was I don't have.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, send it.
Do you know your history? One of the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, smoked marijuana.
Right. We're not saying it's bad.
We're not saying it's bad or good. They used to use marijuana, and not marijuana specifically, but hemp, for everything from the ropes that made that the ships would use, the military ships. They used it for clothes. They used it for an array of things. But once they figured out it was you can smoke it and get high from it. I think that was.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong on that one.
I know my history.
let her talk this one over. Let me think on it for a second.
But I know what you're saying. I hope that it stops absolutely with marijuana. I have no problem with marijuana. I have no problem with the legalization of it. I'm understanding what you're saying about it then going to the next thing, which in 10 years you see it being heroin. But I hope that it stops here with this specific thing.
The number of benefits outweigh the number of
right. I've never heard of
downsides.
Heroin benefiting anybody in any way.
Outside of, somebody that was prescribed opiates turning to heroin because they couldn't get their opiates.
But heroin itself is not something you can get a benefit from.
Right. So marijuana has been shown to help with a number of medical conditions, and I believe that's why, among other reasons, but that's the main reason that it got legalized, is because of its
and
help
because
and
of
benefit.
what this caller's saying is because you can tax it.
Right, and you can tax it, but
thank you so much for calling in.
Yes, thank you for calling in.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yay! Sorry, that was the first caller.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
That's exciting.
People watch the show. Look at that.
Holy cow. Okay, so back to the. I'm gonna skip because we went into the Ferris Doctrine. So they're not overturning the Ferris Doctrine. They are ordering the VA to explain why it hasn't expanded benefits to certain other Agent Orange exposed veterans, which I'm pretty sure that statement in and of itself kind of explains and we're all for that. But once again, you ordered the VA to do it. Will the VA do it? That's a whole other story.
Well, how long will it take?
And what explanation are you actually going to be given? And
how many are going to die before they actually receive the benefits that they're entitled to?
There is also going to be a crackdown on underqualified and unlicensed medical providers in the VA.
Oh, no way.
I didn't even know that was going on. So that's
really
fun information.
Yeah, the VA is notorious. Well, I don't want to say notorious, but they absolutely will hire individuals who, in the civilian world, their medical license would have been suspended and or lost completely because of any number of reasons: malpractice, negligence, overprescribing meds, and any of these and beyond. But it's been documented that they will hire these individuals because they'll work. They'll work for the VA.
That's the only place that they can get hired.
Right, it's the only place they can get hired as a doctor, and they will do what is needed by the VA. I've read a few stories on these are the individuals that run the compensation and benefits, the CMB. So those are the individuals that determine what percentage disability an individual receives.
Oh, goodness. So that goes into a whole little rabbit hole, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up that 2019 recap from the legislative end and bring us to our final thing, which is about PTSD and the holidays. This is kind of more, I guess, my area as far as my understanding and knowledge goes. So for those of you who are the family member of somebody who is a combat veteran, PTSD and the holidays is a undescribable thing to somebody who's not around one of these veterans, because it's something that you wouldn't even understand if I broke it down step by step for you. But we have our own way of dealing with it in our families, and then at the same time there's an overall scope of what most veterans are going through and what most veterans feel are the problems or the issues that they take with the holidays. I was reading a post from a combat veteran earlier today, and I'm going to take some things from that. Which one of the things is that veterans have lost their first world illusion. They understand that there are people who are barely able to get clean drinking water. They understand and they've seen firsthand what actually having a purpose in life is, and having a meaningful peace in the world and all of that kind of stuff, when at the same time we are over here and we're having mega sales and we're buying one PlayStation and getting the next one 50% off, and we're excited about that, and they're in a different area thinking, why, I'm assuming. And that's the first thing. The second thing is they're thankful for the basics in the most simple sense.
Thankful to be alive. Thankful that your friends are alive.
And
that you're actually with your family or friends or loved ones.
And I'm thankful for that, but I know in the way that he says that I'm not thankful in the same way that he is, because I've never experienced a piece of life where I wouldn't have been I've never had to worry that my life
wasn't
wasn't
going to be there. Where you may not have walked away from it, or where your friends haven't survived.
I've never been away from my family and friends in the way that he has, so I'm not thankful in the same way that he is. And we both know that, but at the same time, it's something that if you're aware of it, it's able to be kind of understood and empathized, which that's another thing that was in the post, was to empathize with the veterans and not sympathize. The third thing was the survivor guilt. That's a real thing that is absolutely affecting veterans all the time, but at the holidays, it's probably a little bit more significant.
Survivor's guilt is surviving either an attack or an accident or something that your friends didn't, and you feel guilty because they survived. I'm sorry, because you survived and they didn't. I've got my own stories that go along with that, but it's
real and it's there.
It's horrible, and it just pulls you under all the time. And during the holidays,
you're probably thinking about their families, and you're thinking about all of that.
You think about their families more so than you normally do.
You can see how that travels. Now, the last thing of all of those that I really took kind of a beat with was their life came down to 3 questions, which was, when will I eat, when will I sleep, and who will I have to kill or who will try to kill me next? And I don't ever think that my life has been that simple, and I'm lucky that it's never been that simple, but because it hasn't ever been that simple, it's the holidays, it's all of the hustle and bustle, it's the families, it's all of the stress that goes along with it that we average civilians feel and know, and we complain about and we joke about, but they're not there anymore. when they went to combat, when they did all these things, when they saw this, when they went down to 3 simple things,
We went from where you are now during the holidays, just we're trying to get sales and trying to get all of getting things for your family and friends. One year to the next Christmas, I was deployed for Christmas. I was over in Iraq, and it was a truly different experience. But then to come home and see it again, it almost hurts, just the whole experience, just watching it and knowing what.
So if you would like us to talk more about this or elaborate a little bit more about the PTSD and the holidays, write into one of the Facebook pages, let us know. And we are going to wrap up and say thank you for bearing with us through this this rambling of information. And we will look forward to seeing you next week.